Good evening, council members. Would you please take your seats? Welcome to the Committee of the Whole for April 10th, 2012. Tonight's Pledge of Allegiance, would you join me in it, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Just before Mr. Becker, Mr. Olson from F&P starts the agenda, Councilmember Schwantz is excused tonight, and Mr. Kirch will be here after 8 o'clock. For any business that you need to talk to him about. And then there's just one thing that at the Refuse Contract Committee this morning, we were given the notices that you have on your desks about the annual meeting for the disposal system, which is on Wednesday, April 18th. And it's a free seminar, starts at 8 o'clock in the morning and is over by noon. And any of you council members that could possibly attend, please fill out the registration form included. It's something that I think you will find very useful and valuable as we deal with as many refuse issues as we have in front of us. Thank you, Mr. Olson.
Welcome to FMP portion of tonight's meeting. I have two items listed here for public hearing. The first one, item number 49 and 50. 49 is a resolution re-referred approving waiver and liability agreement between Gunderson Lutheran Limited and City of La Crosse, and number 50 is a resolution re-referred approving the amended and restated Gunderson Lutheran Development Agreement. And I have three individuals here registered in favor of the legislation. Sarah Hellberg, 1407 Kane Street. Dan Whitestein, 1503 Nokomis Avenue. Kyle Olson, 1407 Lehigh Street. And registered in favor of legislation, but only here to answer questions, is Tim Cabot, 2819 Quarry Place. We have a motion and a second for approval. Is there any discussion? If not, all on the board, please. We have 14-0, and Ms. Scott, do you wish to? Are you registering in favor or against? That would be any objections to allowing the council president in favor? If not, that would carry 15-0. On item number 50, a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? On the board, please. Oh, Mr. Seacrest.
Well, I think we all ought to recognize this is a really big deal. And this really kind of follows on what Carl Green talked about in the last hour. This is not only going to be give a major boost to our largest employer and our largest taxpayer, but it's also going to be a major improvement for the neighborhood around it. This is a really super thing, and it deserved mention. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Thank you, Mr. Sequist. On the board, please. That carries 15-0. The second item that I oops. You know what? I read the wrong one. The names that I read were for item 79. For 49 and 50, both in favor, but only to answer questions. Dan Lilly, 1900 South Avenue, and Jerry Arndt, representing Gunderson Lutheran. Item number 79. Resolution authorizing release of funds pertaining to budgeted amount for downtown Main Street Incorporated. We have a motion and a second. Does anyone wish me to read those names off again? If not, is there any discussion? Andrea from the first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What was the dollar amount again for the release of funds?
I believe that it was 15,000. Wayne, if you would, please.
The total amount in the budget for 2012 was 19,000. We've paid 13,000, so the balance due would be 6,000.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, on the board, please. That carries 15-0. I have no more items for public hearing. Thank you.
Good evening. The Highways, Properties, and Utilities Committee has 3 items for which members of the public are registered. The first we'll take up is number 61 on your agenda, a recommendation of the Public Facilities Designation Committee that the city property located at 3601 Park Lane Drive become known as the Chad Erickson Memorial Park and the Trout Pond become known as the Vietnam Veterans Pond. Committee report is to adopt. Here registered in favor but only to answer questions is Sheila Garrity, 300 2nd Street North, representing the Lacrosse Community Foundation. Are there any questions of Ms. Garrity? There'll be no need then for a public hearing. Is there any discussion on this item? All those in favor, please. Pardon me, you went on and then off again. Go ahead, Ben
It's one of
Sullivan.
those on and off days. I'd like to just congratulate all of us for approving this recommendation because I think it represents the very best of cooperation between the public and the private sector. You know, what the Erickson family has done is garner up a whole lot of support from a number of different entities, and I just think it's a wonderful way for us to proceed as a community to create opportunities for a whole lot of people to really enjoy an area that hasn't been very enjoyable in the past. Thank you.
Well said. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The recommendation is unanimous for adoption. The next item we'll take up is number 62 on your agenda, a recommendation of the Public Facilities Designation Committee that the canoe kayak landing where Gillette Street or County Road B crosses the La Crosse River become known as Earl's Landing. Okay. Here registered in favor but only to answer question is Brian Day of N3335 Bird Valley Road, representing Earl's Group. Are there any questions of Mr. Day? Seeing none, again, there's no need for a public hearing. I do have a motion and a second to accept the committee report. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of adopting the committee report signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That too is unanimous. And my final item is number 76, a resolution approving the Fourth Amendment to the lease agreement between the City of La Crosse, Northwoods League Incorporated, and La Crosse Baseball, LLC. Here registered in favor of that item is Brent Smith of 2646 Hickory Lane and Dan Kapanke of 1610 Lakeshore Drive, both in La Crosse. Are there any questions of either gentleman? Seeing no need for a public hearing, all those in favor of adoption signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That too carries. That's all I have for public input, Madam President.
Welcome to the Judiciary Administration portion of the Committee of the Whole. I have 3 public hearings tonight. First one I'm going to take up is number 59. I have a resolution amending Council Rule 7 regarding the selection and oversight of the city administrator. At 7:20, the J&E recommendations to deny, and I need a motion for a public hearing. All in favor say aye. Opposed? We're now in public hearing. I've got one speaker wishing to speak in opposition. Is Greg Luce, 1831 Nokomis Avenue, representing the La Crosse Tea Party. And you have 3 minutes, sir.
All right. Thanks. Yeah, I know the issue was sort of settled last week, but when I saw this resolution today, I was a bit concerned. It looked like some kind of underhanded attempt to keep this alive, because I've heard from some of you that you didn't hear the voters last week. And I just wanted to ask, I guess the main offender's not here tonight, Swans. I wanted to direct it to him. What part of no don't you understand? The voters spoke and they said no. But both he and Councilwoman Cotter have said in as many words that the Administrator Yes campaign didn't talk slow enough for us voters to understand it properly. But we understood it clearly. I hope you do. That's all.
Any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thank you for coming. I need a motion to close the public hearing. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Carried. That is the J&A recommendation on the board. The motion is to deny on the board. So if you want to deny it, you vote yes. So it's 15-0 to deny. Okay, that takes care of number 59. So the recommendation for Thursday night is for denial. Okay, next I've got is number 15. I have an ordinance re-referred to create 21.17 parent C of the Code of Ordinances of the City of La Crosse to designate the alley bounded by 2nd Street, 3rd Street, Main Street, and Pearl Street as a pedestrian mall. And J&A sent this to the Committee of the Whole with no recommendation because of a 2-2 tie. And I need a motion for a public hearing. Councilmember Wishman, did you wish to speak? Oh, okay. You withdrew, okay. Wishing to speak in favor of the resolution is Carla Kelly's, 113 South 2nd Street, representing Carla Kelly's Interior and Kick.
Hi. I just wanted to let you know that I live on that block, I work on that block, my daughter owns a store on that block. We maintain that alley, and over the past 13 years since we've been there, my husband and I have let the snow come onto our property because there's no place to push that snow. We're landlocked on both ends. And then my husband sends out invoices. We talk to all our neighbors to split the bill, and then we can't collect. So an average year for us to remove the snow is $3,000 to $4,000. That's just removing the snow from our private person. The other thing is we have some downspouts right on the ends of the alley. We're landlocked building to building, that the downspouts hit that alley, and the ice is so bad, and sometimes it's this deep, and the ruts, you can't get your car through without getting stuck, and we have all fallen through it. And I would bet most of the people in this room use that alley as a pedestrian walkway to get from one port to the other downtown. I have cameras out there. We've lit the alley. We've done as much as we can with the alley, but we don't have the participation of the members who own the property. We have absentee landowners on that block, which have never, some of them have never paid us, or they just think it's not a problem because they don't deal with it. We are the ones dealing with it, TJ, his parking, and my parking. And I guess in the future, we are not going to plow, because when we do plow, or in the beginning, if we went out onto the street, the city just pushes it right back in. And we are building to building, so I don't know what the city thinks we should do with this now, but we really don't have a place to put it unless one of us takes it, and I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm not going to pay to have it removed. I'll pay for my own lot, but I'm not doing the alley anymore, and our neighbors need to understand that.
1 minute.
And, you know, I live downtown. I try to be a good neighbor. I try to clean the alley when I can. I'm always picking up trash, and it's time for the city to acknowledge that these alleys are big walkways for pedestrian, and we just have no place to go with this ice and snow. And if we don't remove it, the ice buildup is so bad that you can't drive through it. That's all.
Any questions for the speaker? Thank you for coming. Registering in favor of legislation but do not wish to speak is Tim Cabot, representing downtown Main Street, and Terry Pearsley, 215 Pearl. Moving over to the other side for opposition, first speaker I have is David Rudrud, 120 South 3rd, representing himself. And you have 3 minutes.
I don't live downtown. I did for 10 years, but I guess I gave the wrong address. It should be 121 South 19th. But anyway, I say let the people that benefit from having it be a pedestrian walkway, let them pay for it. A lot of people can't afford that, and that taxpayer dollars, I think, would be much better spent on handling the pigeon and the trash problem. And we don't need to have any more brickwork done down there. It's already been kind of a problem, what it is on the sidewalk with what the cigarette butts and everything else are. And it's been that way from, I've been downtown there, on that block, working for 31 years now, and we've always managed before, and I know there was some talk before about Mr. Rowley doing his plowing, but it seemed to me that he only plowed his half the alley, and we were always able to get through, and I just feel strongly that we shouldn't have to go ahead and spend all this money on it, especially the way that it was shoved down our throat and without any notification before this thing came up in the first place. And if it wouldn't have been for the fact that they had to notify us with the 90-day notice, that it would have probably just been passed along through and we would have gotten stuck with it. And given that the way that the situation is now with the neighbors and everything, I just feel like if they want it, then let them pay for it, because you know there's a lot of people down there. You know, money's tight these days, and a lot of us cannot afford to do it. And I know that I'm not one that has to pay for that, but I've been asked to pay for the shoveling, and I refused in the past, and I would refuse in the future, because we had always been able to manage before and shovel our way out by hand, and that's what we would continue to do. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Rudrud? Thank you for coming. Next speaker wishing to speak in opposition is Karen Devine, 420 South Fifth Avenue, representing the Antique Center. I asked for council members having questions. Is there a Karen Devine here? Okay, and you have 3 minutes.
I signed up to speak because not so much that I oppose the whole thing as that I don't understand it. I've been attending all of the meetings and trying to figure out what the benefit would be to us as a business on the alley. We have a 68-foot linear feet parking lot that we have someone come in and plow out, and they're usually there very early in the morning. And then at every meeting I was at, the people said that that the alley was not gonna be a priority to plow, that they would be plowing the other streets first. So that sounds to me like they would be coming in and plowing the street after our plowman came and then plow us right back in. Or are they going to move that snow on all the way out of the alley every time, or just run the plow straight down? And how will that there is a big ice dam, and how will that affect the plowing?
Okay, I will ask that question when the public hearing is over to our Public Works Director. So, but we're now in public comment.
Okay. The other thing I would like to reiterate, one of my coworkers spoke the other night too about the fact that in our business, we would like people to walk down the street. We don't want to encourage them walking in the alley because we can't have our back door open to the public to come in that way. And so it just seems like, what is the reason for doing this? I still don't understand it. I don't think it'll solve the problem. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for the speaker? Okay, and then I've got one person that signed a green sheet but didn't check a preference. Lois McElney, 7474 County 25 La Crescent, representing the Antique Center. Do you wish to speak?
No, I do not.
Okay. Council rules provide for rebuttal if there is one from the proponents. Come on forward, and you get 3 minutes for rebuttal.
I'd like to comment on Dave's report to you. He is not a landowner. So it's not up to him what gets removed and what isn't. I'm talking about the landowners on the block, and he is not a landowner. And the back of those bars do not get cleaned up with the snow. It gets pushed onto ours. So, and he just said, you know, we can't all afford to do this. I'm telling all of you, I can't afford to do it for the alley anymore myself. So I guess that's all.
Okay, I have a question for you. An earlier speaker wanted to know what's the rationale for doing this?
Well, if the only way we can get the alley plowed is to have it designated as a pedestrian walkway, is what we are most concerned with. It's dangerous, the ice buildup is terrible, and we have no place to put that snow. And if we're not gonna maintain it anymore, our concern is what's gonna happen next year and the year after and the year after. We were really lucky last year because of the amount of snowfall we had. But that alley between, you can, from the, at Radisson, you can see through to that alley. It is such a pedestrian walkway anyways. People use it to get from back and forth the parking lots and to all the businesses on Pearl and Main. So we have a lot of parking back there. We have a lot of businesses that use it. We have a lot of people who live downtown that use it. We have a lot of apartments on that block. So I guess to make it more pedestrian friendly, but I understand that's the only way we can get the city to maintain that alley, is to identify it as such.
Okay, thank you. We have a question, I believe, from Council Member of the 1st District, Andrea Richmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess you're going to have to help me out a little bit. If the city would do the plowing for the business owners, then I'm not sure if, and maybe Public Works can help me out on this, then would they be billing you for that service then? Or is it, you're hoping that the city just does it
I'm hoping
free?
the city does it.
Okay, but my concern is then how many other business owners are going to want their alleys plowed in the winter, and it could create.
Especially alleys that are landlocked. We're building to building on the alleys there. There is no place to put it. And I own a parking lot. That's why I get it all. Even when I don't want it, they're still throwing it on my lot.
So there's no other alleys downtown that aren't in this situation?
I believe there's probably several. As a whole, I think the city should be plowing those alleys for the businesses downtown. We're the reason that the city's making it is because of our businesses downtown. I see.
And I think the only reason it came up in discussion on last Tuesday night was because it was more of the landscaping end of it. And
that's not our priority.
And that was given as the priority, put brick paving in benches and so on to make it more attractive?
Well, we have started that last summer by painting buildings, and we're working together with everybody in the alley to each paint each other's buildings and offer free help to do that. I mean, our alley really does work together. But as far as the snow, they don't have any place to put their snow either, you know. But I take offense when somebody's complaining that doesn't own property. It's the property owners who should be responsible.
Thank you.
To see that something's done.
Mr. Olson, you got a question for the speaker? Mr. Redwood, you'll get your turn when I go over to the other side.
I do have a question. The Antique Center is the only business there that has parking in the back. Where would you suggest those people go that work there, that now can't get to their business?
Well, my business also has parking. So does TJ's.
Okay,
So,
but is
so
your
we're
parking-
penalized for having a parking lot to take all the snow.
Which business is it that you own there?
I own 113, 115, 117.
And
I own Kick, the Pampered
Okay.
Cigar Factory building, and I live on the top floor, and my business is run out of there.
Okay, but you said you have a parking lot. Does that
Yes,
is
we
that the
do.
parking lot that's adjoined on
It's
the
the parking
alley
lot
and
between,
Second Street?
between Clock Shop and my building. Kick is occupying
So
the
you
first
wouldn't
floor.
have access to your parking if it's a pedestrian mall.
Well, that's the confusion. The newspaper put it in the paper. That's why people are upset about this, that it was pedestrian only, and that's not at all what we wanted. They misled the public, and that's what got everybody up in arms, that the headline said pedestrian only, and that's not what we intend.
So those places, and I'm not sure which one of you two would like to answer that, Randy or Dale, they would be able to access their parking lots?
Absolutely. It'll make
Thank
it
you.
easier.
Okay, we have no further questions for you.
Okay.
We have 2 minutes and 26 seconds left, and the proponents, if Mr. Cabot or Mr. Peasley wants to step forward. Okay, make it real quick, Mr. Hexam, because I don't want to turn this into between. Could you, I apologize, Mr. Peasley, he wants to answer a real quick question. Mr. Hexam, go ahead.
The restriction on traffic is through traffic. So it is not to limit access to businesses or that kind of thing. It's through traffic that does not have access privileges to those alleys. Thank you.
Okay, I apologize for the interruption. Go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I guess this is not the way I'd like to have seen it happen. I wish I would have got the resolution and introduced it to all the neighbors, and we all got together and talked about it, because the Tribune article did kind of upset people thinking that they weren't going to be able to access their properties. The liability issue here for the city is, I think, what we should really be looking at. This is the last year that private individuals are going to plow the alley. I did my stint. Paul Rowley did for probably the first 25 years I was down there. Paul came through and well, Dave mentioned he might have only done half the alley, but he owned Rowley's office equipment on 3rd and Main Street. So for him to even plow half of the alley for us was pretty generous. What Chuck and Carl have done over the last probably 10 years is they paid a contractor to come in and plow the alley, put the snow on their property, and then try to get everybody to pay their fair share of handling the cost of this. They're not going to do it anymore. I did it for a while. Paul Rowley did it for a while. So this year, the alley is not going to be plowed.
1 minute.
Okay. The liability for the city is that this is, you know, and if you want further proof of it, maybe you should do a study for a week, just from morning until after bar time, and see how many people from the parking ramps walk through to First Bank Place and then come back over the noon hour and go to lunch, and then at the end of the day go back to their cars, and then at night the evening crowd, the bar crowd comes and uses that alley. It's one of the busiest alleys downtown, and if it's not plowed and it's just ruts from the trucks picking up dumpsters and deliveries, people are going to get stuck back there. It's happened before. I've seen it over the course of the last 40 years. So this was just a good way to have it all taken care of, and I thought it was a good proposal. I'm sorry that some of the neighbors got upset by it, and that wasn't my intent. I like to get along with the neighbors. And also, just letting you know that the alley has been taken care of pretty much for the last 40 years. But this
Can
is
you wrap it up?
Sure. Well, thanks for the opportunity, and I hope you see the merit in this, because it is a very busy alley. It's used by a lot of people, and this would take delivery drivers from racing through the alley and people trying to save some time by not going through the lights, just cutting through the alley. Everybody who has property would have the same rights as they've always had. So please take that into consideration. I hope you approve it.
Any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thank you for coming. We will move over to the other side. Mr. Rudrud? Your side. Oh, Mr. Satori, you got a question for somebody? Later, okay. Go ahead, Mr. Rudrud. Your side gets 3 minutes.
Yeah, I've owned property in downtown La Crosse at 120 South 3rd since 1993. I've been doing business there since 1990. And I've been working there since 1982. So for the first speaker to say that I wasn't a property owner is a lie. And I don't have property on the alley, but I have to have an egress to have access to the alley. Otherwise, I couldn't own the property that I own. And I believe that because of that, I have just as much interest as anyone else. And the fact that I have 4 apartments upstairs above my building means that my tenants need to be able to get back and forth, and all of this has been kind of unsettling to me too. And then when the other speaker had said that everyone tries to work for each other, that's why I'm getting asked to move my car when it's parked in front of her store. That's why she asked my neighbors to pay for parking when their lot was getting repaved, when they just needed to use it while they were getting repaved. I mean, that's not working together, if you ask me.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Rudrud? Mr. Satori, do you have a question? Nope, okay. Okay. We have 1 minute and 53 seconds left for rebuttal for the opponents. I see nobody stepping forward, so I need a motion to close public hearing. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Carried. Before we go to Mr. Satori, I want to follow up on the question from the lady for Mr. Hexum about priority. How quick or will that, if this passes, will that be plowed?
None of the alleys that are currently plowed by the city, the other pedestrian ways or the lake, and we don't plow many, but none of those will be on a priority list. The priorities would be state highways, arterials, collectors, residentials, and eventually alleys. So I can't, give you a positive response to that, in that it could easily be 12 hours after an event, after a snow event, could be 18 hours, because they are not priorities. The other comment that I would make along the lines of plowing the alley, there were comments about adjoining parking lots, or parking lots that adjoin the alley. Snow from private lots currently is not permitted to be placed in a public street or on public property. So those property owners that have adjoining parking lots wouldn't be plowed by the city. Furthermore, when the alley would be plowed, generally it's going to be the alley snow only. And we don't remove snow, as everyone knows, from the downtown business district after every snow event. That's a long, very expensive proposition. So the snow that is plowed from that alley will quite likely end up back on some of the private property and or be pushed out into the adjoining streets and take up some curb space along those adjoining streets. So there will be a delay in the plowing. It's not a priority. It could be a number of hours after an event stops, snow event. And those property owners, again, that have lots adjoining that alley, under the terms of the ordinance, would not be permitted to just place their snow from the lot into the alley and expect the city to take it away. They would still really be responsible for hauling the snow from their lot on their own.
Thank you, Mr. Hexum. Mr. Satori, you're first on the list.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we are having kind of a, since our city planner isn't here, he could probably answer a lot of these questions, but we have already one pedestrian walkway mall right now, and it's called the Dorflinger Way, over by Dorflinger's, the alley there. There were two designated, two marked in the planning of downtown La Crosse. The two that were marked were the Dorflinger Walkway and the, I guess we'd call the Jefferson Alley. That's the title of the alley by Buzzard Billy's that's already designated as a walkway. Problem is, and then people who are walking from the parking ramp, they get to Pearl Street, and then all of a sudden you have this alley full of snow and everything else. And if they're walking to the U.S. Bank Tower or walking to Main Street, they have to go through a lot of hell to get to where they're going. If anyone walked or watched the pedestrians, there are many, many, many people who walk through that alley because it is the easiest way to get to Main Street from the parking ramp over by the La Crosse Center. That means people, even at the La Crosse Center, if they're cutting through, they cut through that alley too. So it is used by many, many people. And it was planned, and the city planner could tell you that, it was planned to be a walkway. They have already put lights in the alley. The thing is, it hasn't been properly designated. That's why it was put in to be properly designated. The plowing is just another issue, but the issue is really a walkway for pedestrians to get around downtown La Crosse. I'm not sure when it comes down to the cost to the adjoining properties, when it comes down to, I don't think the city is making them put brick pavers in or any of that in. It's just that I think it has to be a joint agreement amongst all the adjoining properties for all that, and I would have to ask Public Works or whoever who could answer that. Does the city contact all the adjoining properties and say, hey, is this a good idea to do this? And if one property says, no, I don't want to do this, does the city make them? Or is it something that's a joint agreement amongst the people who are there?
Mr. Turkenwald, can you answer that, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In approximately 2000, the City Council adopted a downtown pedestrian mall policy. In the policy, it states that the improvements in the alley, which in this case would be the lighting and some surface treatment on top of the concrete pavement, would be assessed to the property owners 50% of the cost, and the city would pick up 50% of the cost. If this alley gets designated as a pedestrian mall, we would then this summer look at the surface treatment, and we'd also send through the council a preliminary and final assessment roll that would have everybody's that has property adjacent to the alley paying a portion. And the past policy in the Dorflinger alley is on, because these alleys are so narrow, that if a property owner needed to give the city an easement so we could put a public light on it, we gave the property owner a $500 credit off of the assessment. So if this alley does get approved, that would be the next step, a preliminary assessment roll, do the additional work, and then a final assessment roll.
But there is already lighting on the alley as it is right now. Would you do the so-called fake brick paver texturing, or could there be, in a sense, something painted on the concrete, just so people know that it's a walkway, or do you have to do something really fancy on it, or is it something joint agreement amongst the people who have the adjoining property?
The policy calls out for a surface treatment similar to the Dorflinger Alley and the Jefferson Alley between the Holiday Inn and the Buzzard Billy's. It's not brick pavers. It tries to look like brick pavers. It's an adhesive that's maybe an eighth to a quarter inch thick over the top of the concrete. The policy kind of dictates all the treatments that the alley gets. And when the lights were installed in the alley years ago, the intent was, if this alley ever became a pedestrian mall, that it would follow the policies of the pedestrian mall policies, which would mean we would go back and assess the property owners for the lights.
You would. I thought originally you wouldn't, because the lights are already there. So you're answering, it's different now that I'm hearing. If you know the Jefferson Alley by Buzzard Billy's right now, if you look at some of that texturing right now, it's already lifting and falling apart and all that. That's why I'm worried about if you force people to put something in there that won't last, then you could be reassessing them for repairs?
No, the policy is that it's a one-time only assessment. We are going to go back and look at the Dorflinger and the Buzzard Billy alleys and do some, while we have the contractor doing this alley, do some of the repairs on that other alley. That treatment is at least 10 years old now. That was done right after the Holiday Inn went in. You know, nothing lasts forever. Everything goes to a greater disorder, so you know, we have to maintain it, but everything, you know, doesn't last forever. So we may be able to find a better product now 10 years later that might last a little longer, but on a surface treatment like that, I would say, you know, 15 years is max you're going to get out of a product of that nature.
Okay. Thank you. Well, council members, the walkway between the parking ramp and behind Buzzard Billy's, it's treated well. It's a nice walkway going from 2nd Street to 3rd Street next to the parking ramp. And then you have a walkway going from Buzzard Billy's, it's called Jefferson Alley, going to Pearl Street, and then all of a sudden you just dump it right there, and there's no carry-on to the rest of the walkway. So I think it's actually beneficial to carry it over to Main Street. It is designated, if you look at the long-range plans, it is designated to be a future walkway. I think it should be done sometime. If it's not done now, I think in the future it should be done anyways, but I just hope that we do look at this and listen to the people who are talking. Thank you.
Next, we'll move to the council member of the 1st District, Andrea Richmond.
A few questions and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for Mr. Turtenwald. What would be, I guess, the cost of putting this brick paving in there? That was mentioned as the most important at J&A with the brick paving and the landscaping. And that's why I raised the question. When I drove through there a couple times over the weekend, you know, it's perfectly good concrete, and I would hate to see that taken up at another cost. I guess give me some ideas at what the cost would be.
The existing concrete would remain in place. We wouldn't remove any concrete. So this surface treatment goes over the top of it, and it's thin. And the estimated cost is $18,300 to do that alley. The Lighting cost $18,800. Those are actual costs that were incurred by the city probably 6 years ago. So with those two and the city paying 50% of the cost on those two, the property owners are estimated get assessment of $35 per lineal foot of frontage, which could be paid in lump sum over 10 years or over 15 years.
And at that, it'd be about, what, $500 each then? Is that what you came up with?
They, they range depending on how much frontage. The smallest frontage is only 12 feet, and that's about $400. The largest is almost 100 feet, and that was $3,400 of the assessment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are all estimates until you do the work.
Well, I think it's very important that we have that lighting in that alley. I mean, there are a lot of safety concerns always addressed in the downtown area. And I don't know with the legislation for that pedestrian mall whether, you know, can we forgive, you know, charging back to the property owners for that lighting. I guess my concern is putting in, you know, the surface treatment to make it look better when a lot of the probably pedestrians that are using it aren't even going to see it when they walk through at night. But I just can't at this time see that extra cost on there. As I, you know, it's like, I don't know how much it's going to cost the city to do the plowing either. And then the other question I have is how many other alleys? I mean, there's a lot of alleys in the city that they would love to have the city come through and plow. How many more, you know, are going to request this? That's my concern, and I guess I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Next, we'll go to the council member of the 11th District, President Cotter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, we've discussed this for so long. Is there a motion on the floor?
There is no motion.
Okay, I will make the motion that we approve and would like to...
Okay, I heard the second, so go ahead.
It seems to me that we're spending an awful lot of time on the more minutiae of this issue. It really is a question of are we interested in refurbishing the downtown to make it as user-friendly as we possibly can. And it is already designated, as I understand, as an alley for potential designation. That is part of the previous plan, and Mr. Turtenwald is nodding his head. So we're not really asking for something out of the blue in relation to this. We're asking for another piece of the puzzle of putting the downtown back together again. And as regards the snow removal part of it, it seems to me if you've got 2 or 3 property owners who are there that have been willing to shoulder more responsibility than just their own properties, but that they have contracted in the past with various contractors, perhaps there's a way, and I'm not suggesting we go into trying to find that way tonight, I'm just throwing out an idea that if the property owners that have their lots already are responsible for removing snow in relation to those lots, perhaps something could be worked out between those property owners and the city to subcontract the plowing portion of it for that alley. It probably wouldn't cost the city any more than, it may not, hopefully, cost the city anything more than it would cost them to be doing the plowing anyway. If there's that much snow, there'll be plenty of other places that the city can be sending its personnel out to work on. So I would suggest that we, rather than dealing with the minutiae of this whole issue, we just get on with it and decide, is it going to be designated as an alley or is it not? And I would hope that we can just go ahead and do that and let the details be worked out in the future. Thank you.
Next, we'll go to the council member of the 7th District, Council Member Jim Bladehorn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of questions. The first one, I think, is either for Mr. Turkenwald or Mr. Hexum, and that is the next alley over. As I'm touring my district down there from time to time, I have noticed that snow removal was actually taking place in the alley between Main and State Street. By the city parking ramp is on one side of that, and of course the United Bank building, or the U.S. Bank building, on the other side. So what's the situation there? Because I have seen snow being removed by city vehicles in that area in the past. And the other and I'll ask one more question and then I'll shut up and let you figure out the answers. The other question is, in the event that we designate this a pedestrian mall, which is probably the right thing to do for downtown, do we need to have pedestrian crossings at each end of that alley? That would be a concern. Safety walking down the alley is a concern, but that's also going to invite mid-block crossing. So that's something we need to consider.
Go ahead, Mr. Hexum. In the alley, Councilperson Bladehorn, that you're referring to, one side of that entire alley between Main and State is the Main Street parking ramp. So that is why you would see city vehicles in that alley clearing the exit from the parking ramp out that goes out into that alley. So we're really only doing snow removal and plowing to provide access to the parking ramp, not the entire alley. We wouldn't be removing snow, for instance, from the U.S. Bank side, from their drive bank parking area, any of that, but it's more snow removal from the parking ramp. And I'll defer the other question to City Engineer Turtenwald.
Go ahead, Randy.
The city would probably not try to encourage mid-block crossings at the end of the alleys. We would like the pedestrian to make a right-hand turn either east or west and go to the crosswalks at the intersection. We know that there's, mid-block crossings, but we don't encourage them. So we probably wouldn't crosswalk at the alley, no. We did put one in at the Dorflinger alley to the parking ramp, and that was because the Dorflinger owner, through the developers agreement, had leased many spaces in the ramp that we felt there was quite a bit of pedestrian traffic. It was unrealistic to expect them to go to a corner cross, so we did put one in there. And I guess the only thing I would add to that is, I could talk to the traffic engineer, and if he felt that there was a huge amount of mid-block crossing and there was a safety issue, we can put in a mid-block crosswalk, but we try to discourage it.
Your questions all answered, Mr. Bladehorn? Okay. Okay, I see no further council members wishing to speak. The motion on the floor is to approve on the board. If you're in favor of the pedestrian mall, you vote yes. If you're against, you vote no. Okay, it passes 12-2, and will the city clerk read the 2 no votes?
The noes are 1 and 13.
Okay,
And then number 4 abstained.
Okay, this will go to next Thursday's meeting or 2 days from today for a positive recommendation. Okay, my last public hearing's coming up. It's item number 14. I have an ordinance referred to repeal and recreate section 8.02 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of La Crosse regarding recycling and refuge regulations. recommended for adoption as amended, and I need a motion for a public hearing. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, I have 7 slips, all in opposition. First one I'm going to take, and I'm going to enforce the 3-minute rule. If we don't get to all of them, council rules do provide that we can extend the time. Okay, first person wishing to speak in opposition is David E. Olson, 1219 Madison Street, representing himself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The proposed ordinance is neither fair nor reasonable in my judgment. It's like instead of going after flies with a fly swatter, you're using a sledgehammer.
Oh, wait, we just lost a quorum here. So who we need, President Cotter or Chris Olson or Mr. Wagner? We need one more here. Okay, here we go. Okay, sorry, Mr. Olson. I apologize for the interruption.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. Shall I start at the beginning?
Yeah, because she started her clock over, so start at the
Okay.
beginning.
This proposed ordinance is neither fair nor reasonable. It's like instead of going after flies with the fly swatter, you're using a sledgehammer. A lot of good landlords will be hurt hard by these changes. Personally, you will force me to pay over $1,000 a year to have a dumpster at my duplex. The cost to city service the property is $252 a year, and part of my property tax bill goes to pay for this service. Please see my handout that was given out before the meeting, analysis of dumpster costs from privatizing garbage pickup versus city service dwelling pickup, to see exactly how I figured these figures. If this is just not simply about reducing the cost of city service garbage pickup by unfairly transferring costs to the landlords and the tenants, then we need to examine what is impeding the inspection department, the Board of Public Works, and the Public Works Department from taking care of whatever garbage problems are out there right now. In my handout titled Issues and Suggestions for Amendments is a laundry list of problems with this legislation and suggestions for improvements. However, even if this proposed ordinance is approved, it will not accomplish what you're after, and 6 months or a year from now, legislation will be back in front of you trying to solve the same problems. I believe the city garbage contract expires at the end of next year. A more prudent approach would be to form a committee with experts and representatives from people who are familiar with and deal with the problems you are trying to solve, and examine different approaches to the garbage system. I talked with Larry Kirch this morning on different types of garbage pickup systems used by various other cities. We both agree, for once, that it would be worthwhile to study what we want our garbage pickup system to look like in the next contract. So instead of singling out one aspect of garbage collection, namely the student 2-week move-in, move-out period, and hurting a lot of good property owners by these proposed changes that are in this ordinance, can't we focus on the bigger picture and work together? The city of La Crosse can withstand another student move-out in May. Please don't be pressured into voting yes for a flawed ordinance. Please turn this legislation down, and let's do a comprehensive look at the future of garbage collection in the city of La Crosse. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any questions for Mr. Olson? Okay, I see none. Thank you for coming. Okay, so there was 2 minutes and 20 seconds used up there. Next speaker is Brent Sawyer, wishing to speak in opposition. He lives at 1020 Grove Street. He represents himself.
Thanks a lot for your time. First of all, I'd just like to say I'm all for cleaning up the city. There's a lot of areas that do struggle with the trash issue, and I own property in some of those areas. I think this ordinance needs to continue to be looked at and tweaked and looked at different approaches on how to solve the bigger problems that we have with the trash, and and I guess the biggest problem I have is there's a fairness issue on the dumpster, requiring dumpsters for a certain number of bedrooms. You know, I think charging all property owners or taxpayers for residential garbage pickup and then singling out certain people and saying that they can't utilize that service even though they're paying the same percentage in their property taxes is unfair at the least. I guess one solution I thought of, if you know, we could continue to look at this ordinance, would be to, you know, if the city thinks having more dumpsters is the solution, but obviously the taxpayers don't want to pay twice in their taxes as well as paying for a private pickup, maybe giving the property owner the option to buy or lease a dumpster, a one-time buy or a once-a-year lease a dumpster, and then dumping that dumpster would be included in their city, you know, included in the city pickup because they're already paying for it.
1 minute.
So that was just one of the things that I thought could be a good compromise. The city would get their dumpsters, the property owner wouldn't be paying twice, and I think this would be good for anybody who's required to have a dumpster, because it's really not fair that anybody's paying for garbage pickup, residential garbage pickup, and then they're denied that service. And I know I've been told, Mr. Farmer told me, well, that's just the cost of doing business. But really, who's to say that the guy who owns one 8-bedroom unit or apartment or whatever it is a business, but the guy who owns 20 7-bedroom units is not a business? I mean, who's to draw that line? And who's to call something a business and something not a business? So to me, it's a fairness issue, and I don't believe that this ordinance is fair based on.
Can you wrap it up?
On the taxpayer having to pay twice for the, you know, for the same service that they're already paying for in their property taxes. So I think it needs to continue to get looked at and worked at, and hopefully we can come up with a solution and compromise that will work for everybody and be fair.
Mr. Farmer
Thank
has
you.
a question for you.
This on it there. I want to you're helping clarifying what I said there, in that I think I pointed out that every other business in the city of La Crosse has to pay for their own pickup, and then the question then is, at what point does your business, which is residential, become a business? I don't know, but it's, you know, I'd love to, at the bank, for our one garbage can a month, I'd love to have the city pick it up, but we pay somebody an exorbitant price to pick that up. It's just, that's where I said it's the cost of doing business, but.
Right, but
right.
you know, you're zoned in a
Right.
business commercial district. I'm in a residential area.
Right,
With residences living around me, all paying the same amount of taxes for their garbage pickup, but because I have 8 bedrooms and my neighbor has 7, I should have to pay twice.
Right. But when
Is that fair?
I'm just saying, but rather than appearing callous here, saying it's just the cost of business, I envied you for having at least the possibility of having the city assist you in picking it up, because that's not available to the rest of us, but.
Well, yeah, I just would like it to continue to be looked at, and that solution or that compromise to be out there, you know, because it seems a lot fairer that taxpayers should, you know, it's the same amount of garbage, whether you have garbage cans or you have a dumpster. There's no more garbage, it's the same amount, right? So why should whoever does the city pickup be against it? It's the same amount of garbage, and it actually takes less people to dump that dumpster than it does to pick up those 8 garbage cans and dump, and less time. So the garbage pickup person, whoever that may be, our current one, or, you know, if somebody else gets the contract, should be all for this, because it's less work for them and less money out of their pocket dumping that garbage. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming. Next speaker wishing to speak in opposition is Charles Clarkin, 207 South 8th Street, representing himself. And you have 3 minutes. And we've used 5 minutes and 20 seconds so far.
Thank you. The current landlords aren't the ones who are important. They'll probably continue to own property in the city or whatever your decision. I'm personally not affected by this ordinance. The important ones are people looking to invest in property. They determine property values and thus how much property tax you can collect. They don't have to buy properties in La Crosse. They can buy them in the suburbs. Put yourself in their place. Would you buy a property that's going to cost you an extra $1,000 per year in La Crosse when you could buy one in the suburbs that wouldn't? This added to the previous ordinance and proposed legislation such as landlord licensing makes La Crosse an undesirable place to invest. Most rental properties can't be converted to owner occupation, so a large part of the real estate value of the city is being affected. The landlords rent to good tenants because they don't want hassles. Landlords like Dave Olson have been fighting the city hall for decades. Who would be willing to get involved in such a situation? Good landlords care about what goes on at City Hall. Bad landlords care about nothing, including who they rent to or whether their properties are being maintained. The reason rental properties are getting worse is because with each new piece of legislation, the quality of landlords willing to invest in La Crosse drops. Items in legislation such as allowing inspectors to decide if properties with as little as 4 bedrooms should have a dumpster without the due process law is the sort of thing that makes investors leery of La Crosse. I have had many bogus orders to correct, and to require a 4-bedroom house to have a dumpster is absurd. If this would actually work, I'd be the first to support it. After all, I have much to gain from increased property values, but this will only make it worse. Thank you.
Any questions for the speaker? Okay, thank you for coming. Next speaker wishing to speak in opposition is Louise Sedovic Lowrick, 2641 Hackberry Lane. And you have 3 minutes.
My husband and I own a fourplex on 7th Street across the street from Hamilton School. Our building has 8 bedrooms, so we would be forced by this new ordinance to have a dumpster. We currently have heavy-duty plastic garbage cans on an elevated steel rack. The covers are fastened to the rack, so when emptied, the covers are not rolling, blowing all over. When the cans are worn out from use, they are replaced, just as my garbage cans at my home are. They are neat and clean, so our trash is not near as horrible looking as I personally feel the dumpsters are. The cost of a dumpster for us would be $780 per year for the smallest dumpster available, with a pickup of 1 time per week. We currently pay $5,513.47 in taxes for this building, and I don't know the percentage that does go for garbage pickup. We do own a home in the city, and I have many people that ask me continually, why do you continue to live in La Crosse with the horrendously high property taxes? And my answer to them is because I love the city, I love the convenience of being here, I love the services we have, and I love the environment. With all the talk about the decline in property values in this city, our taxes don't go down very much in relationship. Yet this proposal is yet another way our taxes will be increased with fees. And I think about a 14% increase for our building. The fourplex we own is home to 4 families, just as your place of residence is your home. At this time, our 4 families consist of 5 adults total and 2 young children living there on a part-time basis with one of their parents. I know there are many single-family homes in the city having at least 5 people in their home, but yet they are not going to be forced to have an unsightly dumpster in their yard for disposal of their trash, which I'm sure is as much as my tenants produce for the same number of people. Granted, there are buildings that for some
1
reason
minute.
someone is not taking responsibility for the trash, and that is unfortunate. But to punish people who are taking care of their property because of someone else, it seems absolutely ridiculous to me. If a company had 1 employee who was embezzling money, would they fire the entire department? If one of your children got into trouble and had to be punished, would the siblings be punished also? I could go on, but obviously you get the picture. In my opinion, there needs to be enforcement when there is a problem, and also some discussion needs to take place about the college area during semester ending dates. Yes, it is horrendous to see all of this stuff out on the curb, but if you were totally diligent and observed every single household, you would also find on a time when a single family moved, there's a tremendous amount of trash there as well. I admit probably not the amount of the college students, as people normally take most of their things with them. But I'm sure for the students, it's easier to just haul it to the curb. I certainly don't have all the answers, but I believe there could be solutions for the problems. As a property owner in the city of La Crosse, I urge you to vote no, or at least give this a little more time.
Wrap it up, please.
Thank you.
Any questions for the speaker? Thank you for coming. We've used 10 minutes and 56 seconds. Next speaker is Jessica Olson, 1219 Madison Street, representing Olson Apartments. And you have 3 minutes.
I'll pass.
She's passing, okay? Next I got is Mike Kiefer, 2704 South 29th Street, representing himself.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm a small-time landlord compared to some of the other folks in La Crosse. I have 3 houses. None of them have enough bedrooms to require dumpsters. I do think citywide that we do have a garbage issue. I support the idea that not just tenants and landlords, but everyone should have their garbage placed in a container of some sort or another. I think that's important to keep it from getting torn apart by the squirrels and other animals and have it strewn about. One of the other things that prompted me to come here tonight was what the real intent of this is. Are we really looking to solve an ongoing, week-to-week, month-to-month garbage issue in the town, in this city? Or I hear and read in the media that this is an issue more about the mass exodus of college students at the end of the school year, which happens to coincide with the time where we have a lot of tourism coming in for the state track meet. Quite honestly, I think this is about changing human behavior. And this is about, if we're talking about tenants or even college students, it's about getting them to be responsible in how they dispose of their items, okay? It's almost impossible for us to legislate that tenants are held responsible. The legislation and ordinance has to come and it has to fall on the landlord or landowner, okay? One of my concerns is when all that garbage goes out at the end of a lease term, okay, that's when the major problem comes about. A lot of the items are thrown out. That is the monument to the end of the business relationship that the tenant and the landlord has. That
1 minute.
That is pinnacle of saying this relationship is over, we're moving on. So it has to fall back on the landlord. By state law, we have to return that security deposit within 21 calendar days. Okay? Large item pickup, as you know in this town, is every 2 weeks. Okay? So we don't even know, it could be possible that it's 2 weeks or more before we know if there's going to be an assessment again our property tax bill. Chances are that's not going to get to the finance department within that 21 days. There's no way for us to withhold security deposit. So we're going to be on the hook. And quite frankly, this ordinance is not going to change tenant behavior. It is going to make us responsible for the people that left town that we don't have forwarding address, and we have no recourse to recoup that money. So in essence, anything you pass related to fines, fees, assessments against the landlord,
Can you wrap it up?
we're in a position where we can't recoup that under state law.
Any questions for the speaker? Thank you for coming.
I think the council president.
Audrey's got a question. Go ahead.
I appreciate your positive comments and accepting responsibility as a landlord. My question is, though, and I understand that the state law does make it difficult in relation to returning the security deposit, but would not the landlords generally check out the facility anyway once the tenants have left and see whether there is garbage on their sidewalk or not, and then withhold the security deposit?
Well, I think until this plays out, we're in a difficult position, and I'm going by what's reported now in the newspaper, and they're talking about ensembles. And it was kind of interesting, I looked in this Sunday's paper, and Slumberland offers an ensemble of a couch, a love seat, a coffee table, a throw rug, 2 corner tables, 2 lamps, and a 51-inch TV screen, and they're selling it as a package ensemble. I highly doubt that the city is going to interpret that type of thing out on the boulevard as an ensemble. I suspect that will be more than the 4 limited items.
Okay.
So, I mean, we don't know how this is going to play out, right? And I'm not going to know whether it's an ensemble or not until I'm given an assessment. And I'm not going to know what that assessment is till it gets to finance. And quite honestly, I struggle sometimes to find out if there was a shoveling fee at a rental property that I wasn't aware of in May. They're not clear if everything's cleared through finance at the end of May about the snowfall. So they aren't going to have this in the finance department within the 21 days I'm limited to.
Well, I'm glad I asked the question because I think it's good education for all of us to understand why you need maybe a little more time. And I know by state law you can't. But anyway, as I say, I appreciate your objective conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. I have approximately 1 minute left. I need a motion to extend it by 2 minutes so we can give the speaker the full 3 minutes. All in favor say aye. Opposed? The ayes got it. Speaking in opposition is Pamela Stripmatter, 1220 Market Street, representing the apartment associations of the La Crosse area. And you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to answer the question thoroughly that President Cotter asked. In regards to the security deposit return and in regards to what a landlord can deduct from a security deposit, we cannot deduct anything that happens outside of the premises against a tenant's security deposit. I can't even deduct a broken window on a front outdoor porch because I can't prove without a doubt 100% that that tenant inside caused that damage. So there is nothing that we can deduct out of a security deposit for anything outside of the physical beings of that apartment or house. Okay? Now, in regards to my talk tonight, thank you very much. As a president of the apartment association, a lot of us apartment association members have looked to other cities to see what other cities are doing with garbage. How are they solving the problem? How are things working in their city? One city that came to our mind was Stevens Point. It's a college town like ours, very similar in size. They do a great job of taking care of their garbage issues. The city has purchased 90-gallon totes, 2 of them for each property, or each parcel under 5 units. One is for recycling, one is for garbage. They're all registered, they're all numbered, they all have lids that work, they're not stolen, they're not graffitied on, everything's fine and dandy. They're picked up on a normal basis by trucks. Takes about 4 trucks for the city to be done. They have improved the recycling program to allow more recycling into those totes so that there's not as much into the garbage tote. They're more than enough for city and more than enough for a lot of less than 4 units. In regards to large item disposal, they recognize that the tenants are not there for the month of winter break, and they're not there for the summer. So it's 3 months. So that's about 4 months that they don't have to pick up garbage or pick up a limited amount of garbage. But they justify a couple extra garbage pickups during college move-out time because they don't do that garbage at that time. That helps to clean up the city. Everybody's working together. Everybody's doing things. It looks nice. It's done and gone. So we really feel that there's a good ordinance that's on the books now in La Crosse. It allows for a dumpster to be ordered if there's an issue. It allows for orders to correct, citations to be issued, and has everything that an ordinance proposal has. Let's do a better job of enforcing the ordinance that's on the books. If you park a car on the wrong side of the street, you get a ticket. You have to pay the ticket or you don't get to re-register your vehicle.
30
If
seconds.
we find those that, aren't abiding by the rules, order a dumpster, get it done. It hits their pocket and we get the area cleaned up. I truly feel that this council must work with all citizens. Please stop pointing fingers at tenants, rental property owners, single-family homeowners, students, business owners, etc. We're all responsible for the city of La Crosse. We all dump garbage. We all can do a job to make the city beautiful. So please, let's start working together. And I think the prime example is we have a year and a half before
Wrap it up, please.
the recycling and, the new garbage ordinance goes in, or new garbage proposal goes into effect, let's take that time to really study it and come up with a great solution instead of just trying to pass this right away. Thank you. And I'll answer any questions that anybody may have.
Any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thank you for coming. I need a motion to close public hearing. All in favor say aye. Opposed, carried. First council member wishing to speak, council member the first, Andrea Richmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is a lot of information on our desk. We did receive a lot of emails from a few of the landlords. I'm just wondering if this shouldn't be referred back. We have all this paperwork, one from David Olson and a few others, but there's a lot of questions on here that I have. And are we to make amendments to all of these sheets tonight, or should it be referred back to a committee to take a little bit more time and do this properly? I mean, I have issues with you can't place your garbage out until 12 hours before pickup. That is an issue. That means you have to get up at midnight and put it out because my yeah, it says 12 hours. Anyway, you have to get up at midnight to put it out for collection at between 5 and 6 o'clock. But there's a lot of issues that I have in here that I've kind of highlighted, but I think this needs to be referred back to get some more information and make some amendments on. Thank you.
Next council member is of the 4th District, Council Member J. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Given that we're currently conducting a comprehensive evaluation of solid waste management, could Mr. Hexam or someone shed some light on why this is being handled outside of the recommendations that will be forthcoming from that work? Thank you.
Go ahead.
The Board of Public Works basically received or receives basically every week orders to correct nuisances throughout the city for refuse and garbage and junk cars and a variety of other things. And it was determined by the Board of Public Works that the issue of refuse and the unsightliness of refuse in some alleys and the like needed to be addressed. So the Board of Public Works began the review of the ordinance about May of 2010 or so, after receiving some complaints from residents that do live in the UWL student rental area. That's one issue. The other issue that Councilperson Johnson makes light of, which I also laid some information on each of your desks tonight, is the joint committee that is currently reviewing solid waste services between the City of La Crosse, City of Onalaska, and La Crosse County. That is really service-oriented and not necessarily enforcement-oriented, and those recommendations probably will not be forthcoming for another eight months or so. So it was determined by the Board of Public Works really to look at the current collection contract and how the ordinance might be changed to improve the ability to enforce refuse ordinances and regulations in advance of that.
Go ahead, Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you. I just want to clarify, Mr. Hexam, I was not making light of the process that's being conducted. In fact, I was one of the sponsors, I believe, that initiated that process. Thank you.
Okay, next we'll go on to the council member of the 8th District, Councilmember Bob Sequist.
Thank you. Being on the Board of Public Works, I got in on this business where somebody angry about the university move-out mess came in with a lot of pictures from his neighborhood in the university area. And from May of last year, the Board of Public Works met quite regularly with citizens, with landlords,
with the city's recycling coordinator, with the city's inspection department, with the police department, the street department, to try to figure out what to do about that. Well, it didn't take very long to realize that the college move-out is really not our not the problem. Yeah, it is. It's its problem, but it's not the problem. You go through the neighborhoods of our city, primarily the ones that are in rental areas, and there is the problem. And I showed, Mr. Olson talked about, look at the bigger picture. Well, here's one of the bigger pictures, and here's another bigger picture. These are from one site, one of the nuisances that you received a notice of last week, one of the nuisances that the Board of Public Works dealt with this Monday. And that was kind of typical of the nuisances that are seen every single week in this city. So, yeah, it's a mess, and it ties into what Carl Green said earlier in the housing report, that it's helping to drag down the value of our properties. And who pays for it? We do. The people of us in this room who are paying more than our fair share of property taxes. That's the fairness thing of it, or the unfairness. We're paying for the devaluation of property in many neighborhoods in our city, and part of the problem is the garbage. By enacting this very carefully, very tediously rewritten garbage and refuse ordinance tonight, you're taking a step for cleaning up this city and starting to lower our property taxes. There are those who want to keep raising concerns, and believe me, they're going to be raising concerns as long as you raise the idea of having a new ordinance. They just don't want any new ordinance. They don't want any more regulations. You're going to have to take a stand here. This La Crosse stand for a better city, and one where we're trying to do something to clean it up.
Next council wishing to speak for the second time, council member of the 1st District, Andrea Richmond.
And thank you again, Mr. Chairman. I just need some clarification here. I'm looking at the information on the ordinance, and maybe Mr. Hexam can provide that. When I'm, excuse me, I can't hear over on the other side of the room. Okay, thank you. It says refuse, and it's, I think it's, it doesn't say the page number, but I will read it. It says, refuse and recyclables shall be placed at the collection point. Refuse containers shall be placed at the collection point no sooner than noon on the day prior to collection. So above that, it says 12 hours. So is it 12 hours or is it the same day? Can you put it out noon the day before? You know, we have people that go out of town, don't come back till Tuesday. The collection is on Monday. According to the ordinance, what is correct? Can you put it out 24 hours before on the revised?
Yeah, generally I think if you have collection on a Wednesday, I mean, we're here tonight, Tuesday night, if your collection day is tomorrow, for instance, I think the intent is you can place it out for collection basically the day before. Collection basically starts on all of the routes at 7 a.m. in the morning. So the intent really is the 12 hours before the start of the collection route. So again, if your collection day is Wednesday and you put it out the night before, that's perfectly acceptable.
Okay, but it does say 12 hours in there. So if you're going out of town and you want to put it out 24 hours before, that's not acceptable then, correct? Right. So with that, I'd like to make an amendment on that to at least make it 24
Councilmember
hours.
Richmond, can I interrupt you here because Mr. Kirsch wants to clarify something. So can you clarify?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm necessarily disagreeing with it. I think what it said, I think last Monday at the Board of Public Works, it was no sooner than noon the day before. So, but it's no later than 5 a.m. the day of. I think that's the amendment that we made. So you can't, historically, I think it was 12 hours, and that was hard to regulate. So now I think the amendment at the Board of Public Works last Monday was no sooner than noon the day before, but no later than 5 a.m. the day of. Part of the problem that we've seen is people will have garbage or their collection materials on the curb for 2 or 3 days before pickup, or 2 or 3 days. You have to bring the cans in after pickup. So I think the 12 hours you're referring to is what the ordinance has been, and what it was amended to actually give people more flexibility to say noon the day before. So if your garbage came at 7 a.m., you couldn't put it out till 7 p.m. the day before. Now you can put it out at noon the day before. So I think this is more flexible than it had been.
Thank you, Mr. Kirsch. Go ahead, Councilmember Richmond.
But in parent O, it does say refuse containers, recycling bins shall not be placed at the alley line or curb for collection more than 12 hours prior to the day of collection. So it should be amended then, at least to 24? Well, I'll make that amendment to at least have 24 hours, being that if there's someone that needs to go out of town for whatever reason, at least have it as 24 hours. I don't see that as an issue. Naturally, I wouldn't want it more than 24 hours, but.
So 24 hours would start when with your amendment?
Depends on what time they leave. Yeah, who's counting? You know, it's like, this is just, I think it's just a cleanup that I would like it as, instead of 12 hours, 24 hour. Day before would be 24 hours. Noon? Okay, I'll change that amendment to noon the day before.
Okay, made by Richmond, 6. Okay, I'll recognize the amendment. President Cotter? The motion is from the J&E committee, which is to approve. And Councilmember Richmond made the amendment, and second by Sequest, that you can put the garbage out the day before, but it's no earlier than 12 noon. Okay, discussion on the amendment. Mr. Bladorm, I'm assuming you want to pass on that one? Mr. Satori, you wish to speak on the amendment? Go ahead.
Well, I have a problem with this because I really don't want to see trash put out all over the place. I mean, if we miss trash pickup, we put it in a garage and we wait until the next time, and then we take it out. I mean, I don't want to see trash all over the city. If somebody can't put it out and stay awake maybe, or put it out, I don't know. But I mean, if we miss trash pickup, we put it and we put it away and we put it out when it's the normal time. So if we're going to start putting trash out earlier and earlier and earlier, all of a sudden we're going to have a city that people are going to be driving in. You're going to see trash all over the place, and there is problems with dogs and vermin and whatever it is getting into the trash and scattering it around, and then all of a sudden the people aren't picking up all that trash because the dogs or whatever have scattered it all over the neighborhood. So I really don't think it's a good idea to have trash out there too early either. People are going on vacation. They should be talking to the neighbors or putting it somewhere else, not just because they're taking off on a vacation. If they can plan ahead, they can deal with the trash situation. Thank you.
Councilmember Johnson, do you wish to speak on the proposed amendment on the floor? Go ahead.
Sorry, I put the wrong light on, Mr.
Okay.
Chair. Thank you. I think that Councilmember Richmond would accept a friendly change to the amendment. In parent O, if about midway through that paragraph, if we struck the language that says refuse containers and recycling bins shall not be placed at the alley line or curb for collection more than 12 hours prior to the day of the collection, since that really contradicts the underlying verbiage before it anyway, I think that would take care of our concerns if she would agree to that. Thank you.
Okay, you agree with that? And Mr. Sequest, you agree with that? Ms. City Clerk, you understand the, okay, is there any objections to, will you state that again?
Yes, right after the line that says 5 a.m. on the designated collection day, that following sentence, refuse containers and recycling bins shall not be placed at the alley line or curb for collection more than 12 hours prior to the day of collection. If that could be struck, that would be my amendment. And
Or
Ms.
the
Richmond's
that's the
amendment.
friendly. Is there any objections to inserting the friendly amendment? Okay, seeing none, so ordered. Okay, Councilmember Richmond, do you have anything further?
My biggest concern is there's a lot of issues here that were raised in the handout, so I don't know how we're going to, unless we do it on, everyone takes the time to read this and then maybe refer this to Thursday night with no recommendation, but there's some legitimate reasons in here. Some of the landlords have put this information together. So I guess I feel pretty strongly we need to at least look at this information and refer it to Thursday so everyone has time to take a look at it. Thank you.
Okay, the motion on the floor is to send it to the regular council member, the regular council meeting 2 days from today with no recommendation. Oh, I'm sorry. The other amendment, the friendly amendment that was inserted. All in favor say aye. Opposed, carried. Okay. Now the motion on the floor is to send this to our regular meeting, which is 2 days from today, with no recommendation. Okay. Any discussion on that? Mr. Bladehorn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm concerned about the whole logic and well, I'm concerned about a couple of things here. First off, we're doing this in anticipation of a contract, but we also have a more all-encompassing ordinance probably in the pipeline for only about a half a year away. And therefore, it seems to me that this is probably premature, given the fact that apparently there's a lot more thought that needs to be put into this, and especially when you consider that my colleague from the 8th District has been waving around these pictures that are inflammatory, but in fact are of a situation that is already in violation of the current ordinance. So the fact that he's presenting these to us as being something this is going to solve isn't true at all. We already have an ordinance that covers exactly those pictures. That's how it wound up in front of Public Works. So instead of being in a big rush to get all of this done and then have to worry about fixing it, why don't we put this on hold and instead make sure that we get this in conjunction with the more all-encompassing ordinance that's coming down the pipe in a few months, and then deal with it properly instead of creating this patchwork quilt of foolishness driven by an inflammatory situation that doesn't really exist. It's a non-situation. So I would move for at least a 90-day referral.
Are you making an amendment? Are you amending the motion that's on the floor?
Okay, I'll amend that motion to make it a 90-day referral.
Okay, there's a second I heard. Okay. Mr. Sequist, do you wish to speak on the 90-day amendment? Go ahead.
Thank you. There's no rush about this thing. The Board of Public Works started the action last May, almost a year ago. It's been very deliberate. There's been no rush. The opponents to this simply want to defeat it, and they're going to defeat it by nicking and cutting. If you look at this, there are not major changes from the original city refuse ordinance. Take a look at some of the things in there, where the lineouts and stuff. It's been a little cleaning up of it and eliminating some stuff that was kind of onerous that it really didn't do anything. But there are not major changes except for the definition of how many bedrooms instead of how many units. That's the biggie. They don't want it. It's time now to clean up our city. It's time to not refer this. It's time to take action tonight and to approve this.
Mr. Olson, do you wish to speak on the 90-day? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not going to disagree with Mr. Bladehorn at this time. I just wish you would wait till Thursday night. Give us a chance to go through this material that's been handed to us from the citizens. And you might be right. We might need to refer this for 90 days, but give us till Thursday night to get a chance to read through some of this. You know, they handed us a lot of information here about rental properties and stuff. Give us till Thursday. Thanks.
Okay, the motion or the amendment on the floor is to amend the referral to 90 days. If you want to amend the referral to 90 days, you'd vote yes. If you do not, vote no on the board. We have 11 noes and 4 yeses. Could the city clerk read the 4 yeses?
1, 2, 6, and 7.
Okay, so that fails. So we're back to the motion to send it to Thursday night on the board. If you want to send it to Thursday night with no recommendation, you vote yes. If you do not, vote no. Okay, there's passes 13-2. Could the city clerk read the 2 noes?
Number 8 and 10.
Okay, so the recommendation is for Thursday night is to send it to the Thursday night meeting with no recommendation. Okay, speed round. Is there any council member that wishes to hold something out, talk on something, separate roll call, or voice an opinion? Mr. Satori, you're first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to know on 47, it says it's been withdrawn. I saw those buildings today and they look like they're already being taken down, so I was just wondering if someone could enlighten me on that.
Mr. Kirsch will try to enlighten you.
Thank
Go ahead,
you.
Larry.
Be my pleasure. Essentially, they had submitted a letter. They are going through a master planning process. So rather than bring the council, there was a alley vacation, a street vacation, these conditional use permits. I think they want to go through a process where I think folks in this room asked for what is your campus master plan? I think they'd like the opportunity to come back. So at this point, they were just withdrawing it with the expectation that they would come back probably after the first of the year.
Well, the buildings are pretty much kind of taken down already. That's why I was wondering.
Okay, is that it, John?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, any other holdouts? Councilmember Richmond?
I can refer this to Council President Cotter. She had mentioned before the meeting there was an amendment, and I believe that was on number 72. Is that correct?
You mean 72 under J&A?
Looking at
62 is not J&A, so I'm going to rule that out of order.
Okay.
J&A is just on the first page. Okay, any other holdouts, discussion, separate roll calls on the? Okay, I heard a motion to move the balance. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Carried. So the recommendation for the balance is to approve as done in committee. President Cotter, that's all I have for the J&A portion of the committee of the whole.
Welcome to the speed round for FMP. Do we have any holdouts? Seeing none, can I get a motion for the balance? We have a motion and second. All in favor say aye. Thanks for showing.
Okay, we do have a couple of housekeeping matters under Highways, Properties, and Utilities. Number 72, I do need an amendment to correct the date. That's a resolution approving 2011 annual compliance report for municipal separate storm sewer system general permit number WISO 50075-1. I need an amendment to change 2011 to 2012. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? That amendment carries. Okay, 63 needs that amendment as well. Are you moving that amendment? All those in favor of amending item number 63 to say 2012 rather than 11? Aye. Thank you. We may as well, the committee report on both 63 and 72 is to adopt, but I'll let those be handled as part of the package at the end of the session. Number 64 is a resolution declaring the new east-west portion of Cunningham Street located between Larson Street and Commerce Street is hereby opened as a public street with designation as street right-of-way. Staff informed me that there are a number of errors in this particular item and they would like 30 days to correct those. Okay, I would first need a motion to turn down the committee report of adopt. Pardon me, Mr. Turtenwald wishes to speak?
We're recommending for that to be not adopted and start over, not referred for 30 days, so that's the recommendation.
Thank you for clarifying that.
And Chairman, on item 72, that is the 2011 annual report. That one is correct.
Oh. Yeah, let's do that. And then we'll go back. Thank you. I have a motion and a second to deny the committee report. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So now that we've turned down the committee report, we need a motion to deny, yes. I have a motion and a second to deny. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? That too carries. Now 63 I believe we handled appropriately, but number 72 we will need to undo the amendment. We haven't passed the main motion yet. It's still an open item, so. Yeah, I don't think we need a vote to reconsider the amendment, do we? Okay. I just need a motion to change 2012 back to 2011. All those in favor? Thank you so much. Are there any holdouts on the balance? I have left number 63, 73. Okay. 73 is a resolution approving license agreement with Riverfront Hotel Incorporated for a sign located at 2nd Street and King. Committee report is to adopt. That's from HPU, though. The previous committees, I believe it was City Plan, asked for a 30-day referral, but that was turned down by HPU. Mr. Formanek, you have the floor.
I took a ride past there the other day, and the sign issue that's happening throughout the city of La Crosse really bears taking a look at what's happening there. I see absolutely no reason in the world for that signage to be there. It makes it look the corner very cheap. There's no reason for those signs. People have GPS system. I can't see anybody missing a hotel down there. I just think it would clean up that area by not having those signs there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sequest. Do you have the floor?
Yes, the Board of Public Works voted to deny this, and I thought the Plan Commission had too, but apparently not. I think there was a split on the Plan Commission about this. Nevertheless, I agree with Councilmember Formanek that we're developing that arts district in that neighborhood and trying to improve it. There's going to be a tremendous new facility there for the community theater at the end of King Street, and and we have all the other development there. We do not have we're trying to get rid of off-premise signs in the city, and that is one that's not needed. is it the Grand Stay Hotel on North Front Street does not have an off-premise sign on Second. The Freight House does not. We could say the Radisson does not, but the Radisson is on both sides. The other facilities, the Waterfront does not have an off-premise sign up on Second Street. This thing is one little way that we can clean up that area and improve it even more. So please vote this down.
Okay, just for your information, Board of Public Works voted to not adopt. City Plan voted to refer for 30 days for consideration by the Municipal Parking Utility Board. Madam Clerk, can you remind us of the motion that's on the floor currently? Okay.
Yeah, the motion on the
The
floor
committee
is-
report is still on the floor. Thank you. Madam Richmond, you have the floor.
I guess I'm surprised that Councilmember Sequist said we need to clean up that area. That area is pretty clean. And I know the Marriott Hotel is putting an awful lot of money into refurbishing that hotel down there. And I think having a sign, you have a lot of visitors that come down there that take a walk along the river, and all of a sudden they don't even see a sign for a Marriott Hotel. I think it's pretty important. So I'm going to approve that.
President Cotter?
Thank you. I believe that the referral from the Public Works City Plan Commission to the Parking Utility Board was an appropriate referral because of the fact that it is on property that is overseen by the Parking Utility Board. And I would encourage you to you would have to turn down the committee report here, and to refer it to the Parking Utility Board, because that's where it really belongs. Thank you.
Mr. Farmer?
Question for Mr. Kirsch, I think. How long is this lease for, or license?
The previous lease arrangement was for 10 years, so that 10 years, I believe, has expired. That was part of an overall development agreement as part of the Frank Liquor site, the old Heileman Corporate Center. That 10 years expired, and then this has been proposed for a 3-year term license agreement, 3 years.
3 years, and is there any exit provisions prior to the end of the 3 years?
I believe so. I don't have it in front of me, but typically in these license agreements, if the original agreement had that if we were to develop that site, then the off-premise sign would go down, of course, and there was a proposal at one time for a hotel there, so it was built in that if the city needed that, I'd have to refresh my memory here, but my sense is that that would still be in this agreement, that if the city needed it for public purposes, then it's in 2022. No, that's a severability clause. That's got to be in.
Mr. Bladorn?
I believe that that's a 30-day in the event that that's needed for the sign to go away, is all we have to do is give them a 30-day notice.
So I'm getting a lot of nodding heads. So the consensus is we have a 30-day exit provision? Okay, thank you.
President Cotter for the second time?
Sorry, I should have made the motion that the committee report be turned down and that it is referred to the Parking Utility Board.
Just make a motion
Thank
to
you.
refer for 30 days, and you've got it. A
Yep.
motion, make the 30-day referral.
That's true.
Okay, all right.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Okay, the motion on the floor is for a 30-day referral with direction to send this to the Parking Utility Board. Is there any discussion on referral? Please vote on the board. We're waiting for one vote? Oh, not anymore. That passes by a vote of 11 to 4, so the recommendation for Thursday will be a 30-day referral.
The noes are 7, 8, 10, and 13.
Thank you. I have remaining numbers 63, 65, 73, and 74. Are there any holdouts on those items? I have a motion and second to adopt the committee report on the balance. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? I have a motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor? Thank you.